Assalamu alaikum, good evening, namaskar, good morning, and good afternoon to all of the people participating across the world. And on behalf of J&A Bharat HSE Foundation and J&A Global HSE Foundation, we welcome you for the 13th Outreach and Knowledge Transfer session on very important topic, human factors, what, why, and how. Today is 19th April 2023. This session is being recorded for the purpose of the future reference. I just would like to welcome you all for this session. Before we move on, I request everybody to kindly keep your microphones on the mute and raise the hand whenever you want to speak during the Q&A session. Of course, it's always good to have the switch off the camera so that you have a good connectivity and good communication. Sometimes in the virtual sessions, the slides comes late, the voice comes first, depending on the connectivity. So kindly switch off your camera and post your queries, comments, suggestions in the chat box as we move forward. And most important thing is, please register your name, company, designation, phone, email ID in the chat box so that we keep doing a lot of knowledge transfer sessions. You will get updated the information from us. And of course, we have our traditional as well as our tradition of having a ceremonial group picture at the end of the session. Please stay for that. And there is a very important knowledge hub, which knowledge transfer group. We are operating on the WhatsApp group. We have a almost from 8 countries. The subject matter experts are in that group, having about 200 members. The link is given in the chat box. You can join if you are not the member of that group. So moving forward, today we are going to have a 2-part agenda. In the part 1 of the agenda, which will be about 15 minutes, we are going to talk about briefly what exactly is these J&A HSE foundations and what we do and what are the benefits HSE professionals can get from these foundations. In the part 2 is very important of any knowledge transfer session. Our knowledge transfer sessions. Today we are going to have a human factors, what, why, and how, by our subject matter expert, Dr.Shama Egbe. She's a HSE human factor specialist, and we are going to listen from her, of course, about her also in a short while before the part 2 is starting. Then we'll have a Q&A, networking, and open discussion. So with that, I would like to welcome on behalf of both the trustees, myself, as well as Mr. Jitu Patel. I'm sure everybody knows on the call Mr. Jitu Patel. He's having a lot of experience in the field of HSE, 60 plus years of experience in the field of HSE. Out of those 60 years, 40 years he has been with the ASSP. He was instrumental in establishing several ASSP chapters around the world, including Kuwait, where I am speaking to you today. And he has worked almost 2+ decades in Saudi Aramco and made a lot of systems and procedures in Saudi Aramco. He has been recognized as a father of, a fellow of ASSP, which is American Society of Safety Professionals. With that, I request Mr. Jitu to give his brief welcome address. Mr. Jitu.
Thank you, Ashok ji. That was so wonderful and flowery. To begin with, I address to all respected honored guests, starting with our guest speaker, Dr. Shama Egbe, Human Factor Specialist, Saudi Aramco, who is our keynote great guest speaker, corporate dignitaries, academics, educators, HSE professional leaders, and distinguished delegates. There are no other ladies than our guest speaker. So on behalf of the J&A Bharat and also J&A Global HSE Foundation's governance and its 2 founding trustees, a very warm welcome to you all. I now request Mr. Ashok Garlapati, whom you just heard, who is the co-founding trustee, to present, excuse me, to give us the brief about the foundations and also the activities we undertake. Everyone knows Ashok ji, and all I can say is he's a globally renowned and a remarkable contribution-making person to develop many HSE professionals throughout the globe. And his contributions to the profession itself is phenomenal. He's an author of even a wonderful book, and he's actually behind the scene. The name of the book is called Oil Drop, and that will show you who really, truly Ashok Ji is. He's a director of Board of Certified Safety Professionals, BCSP, and I'm proud to share that he is currently working as an elected vice president of BCSP. He will be a full-fledged president of the BCSP from January 1st, 2024, which is an honor and a prestigious position to be really proud of. In 2020, he was also honored with the highest fellow honor offered by American Society of Safety Professionals. With that, Ashok Ji, floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mr. Jitu, and appreciate your kind remarks during the session. I just would like to briefly talk about our J&A foundations and why we started, what are our objectives, very briefly, and of course, you can get a lot of information from our websites as well. As you see on the world map there, we have a lot of blue flags, and these are the places, these are the countries, Mr. Jitu and myself together, with the support of so many professionals, have really made a footprint about HSE professional organizations, presence of HSE professional organizations like ASSP or the BCSP. And we wanted to do something more for the India. Then we started thinking about that. How can we do? There are so many organizations in India, but one organization or one concept was missing in India is the foundation related to the HSE. We have a ASSP foundation, BCSP foundation in other parts of the world, but specific to the HSE was not available in India. With that idea, we started our HSE Bharat HSE Foundation on 25th March 2022. And mainly the concept is very simple. It is not a membership organization. It is basically a charity-oriented organization. We work with the professional organizations. We work with the corporate organizations. We work with the academic institutions. We work with the individuals and philanthropists. And like any other organization, we do have our vision, mission, and objectives. As simple as that, our mission is to protect people, property, and the environment by advancing health, safety, and environmental professional, and providing the education and training resources, and providing the scholarships to the students and HSE professionals or fraternity as well. And our objectives are very simple in advancing the profession, to support the occupational safety and health as a career choice among the students, to inspire and develop the leaders, to provide education and development opportunities, and also recognize individuals, organizations, and academic institutions who are really contributing for the improvement of the HSE. And of course, we interact or we collaborate with the training companies or the training centers to provide the opportunities to the HSE professionals. And in addition to that, we will also have a MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, with the organizations having similar objectives, basically to create a synergy. That's what our objectives, and we are officially registered in India, and we do have all the legal requirements such as PAN card and bank accounts, as well as all the requirements are there, fully legally allowed to operate in India. And we do have 3 programs currently, which is a J&A Bharat HSE Foundation Professional Development Grant Program. If anybody wants to do the higher studies or higher programs, this program is applicable. We do have another program called the Industrial Accident Victim Family Support Program. This is, in fact, ASSP also has got a similar program. We have a similar concept as well, basically because of the legal framework or because of the very informal working force in India. We do not have a proper system of the insurance and other things. So we have an accident victim family support program. If if anybody dies in the industrial due to industrial accident, his family can approach to us through this program. We can support them as well. And as I said that we do also collaborate with the philanthropist, Dr. Dhruti Thakkar from New Jersey. She came forward and she supported this particular program called the J&A Keval Shanti Scholarship Program. She is sponsoring the students every year who are pursuing the HSE programs. In 2023, we recognized the 4 students, as you see on the screen, and this program will be continued year and year afterwards also. So Professor Ramana is our chair, who is based in Hyderabad. He is instrumental in promoting this particular program, and he himself is a professor. He retired, and he knows the what are the things required from the institution. So he is the right person. We got him, and we launched this program in 2022, and 23 will be announcing shortly. In addition, we also require the support of the professionals. There is a foundation contribution form in our website. You can just log into the website and give your ideas or give your support. It's not only the financial support, the knowledge support, which Dr. Shama is giving today, something like that. You can always, join your hands with us. There is an expression of interest form. You can do that, and we have the governance body. There are a few governance body members also attending this particular program, and this is our governance body for the J&A Bharat HSE Foundation, and we had some issues related to the global funds to the India. Then we wanted to expand our activities across the globe also. So we launched another foundation with the same concept, same thing, but more geographical spread, that we called it the J&A Global HSE Foundation. We started this particular global foundation on 30th November 2022 by Mr. Rixio. He's a past president of ASSP, and he's the one who gave an idea to us, myself and Mr. Jitu, back in 2010, go and do something for India. So we wanted him to be our chief guest for this Global HSE Foundation. That was kind of him. And we have a similar governance body for the Global Foundation also. We will have a more discussion about foundations as we move forward. Now, let's go into the knowledge transfer session, which is a part 2 of our program. And as I was telling that we do every month one knowledge transfer session. This is the 13th session. With that, I would like to give back to Mr. Jitu Patel to continue with the part 2 of the agenda. You are on the mute. It's up, yeah.
All right, I'm with you all. Thank you. Ashok ji, that was a wonderful, brief, but very precise overview about the foundation. I just would like to add that you already mentioned about that from Bharat, we learned the lesson that the Indian government would not allow the foreign remittances because of a lot of abuse and misuse of the foreign funds. And that is where we got inspired by that law to organize and establish the global foundation. And we are now not only serving the Indian HSE fraternity, especially the students who would like to pursue the HSE courses, but also in global arena. That includes the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the rest of the world countries. And it is officially registered here in the United States, and by the income tax of the United States, the federal government has approved that any donation to this organization is tax deductible, and we began to get some contributions from philanthropies. That is very helpful, and we have began to launch programs to recognize similarly what Ashokji just shared with you. The 4 students were recognized, and we have offered to universities and the local community colleges similar incentive to particularly the low-income parent students wanting to pursue the HSE programs, and continuously and consistently sustain their good performance in the semesters they go through the 3 or 4 years program. So that is what I wanted to share with you. We have extended from Bharat to global, and we always would like to urge you, appeal to you all that consider making your tax deductible donations. Your gift today can make a big difference for the deserving young HSC students. If anyone wishing to pledge any scholarship or sponsorship support to the foundation, whether Indian or the Bharat HSE Foundation or global, please insert your name, email, and phone number, or just directly contact us. That would be fine. Now, moving on to part 2, may I request our very good friend, Mr. Yashwant Garlapati, who is the HSE professional, recently attained his CSP and supporting J&A Bharat as well as global, both the foundation in different capacity. For Bharat, he is the finance administration and foundation promotion chair. And similarly, he's also supporting Global Foundation with his high-tech knowledge in addition to the health, safety, and environment expertise. He's well-versed with integrating the environmental and safety performance. He's currently working with Kuwait Drilling Company as an HSE management system specialist. Yes, please go ahead and introduce our today's honored guest speaker.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, that's good. Thank you, Jitu uncle, for introducing me. And it goes without saying, Dr. Shama is very well accomplished in her field, and she's currently working as a HSE human factors specialist with the Upstream operational compliance at Saudi Aramco. And she has a PhD currently in industrial psychology from the University of Aberdeen on the safety culture and leadership. Along with her PhD, she has 15 years of experience to show for in the oil and gas sector, and has also worked with the Talisman Scientific Energy, the Expro Group, the Lloyd's Registered Consultancy in the UK, and the Al Mashrak training in Bahrain. He has extensive experiences in this human factor techniques, safety cultural assessments, behavior safety programs, root cause analysis, and leadership training. Her being here today is a testament for her passion for initiating positive change and collaborating with organizations such as J&A HSE Bharat Foundation. Considering her accomplishments in this field, she's well fit for speaking our topic for today, which is the human factors, what, why, and how, the concept of human factors and what it encompasses. So personally working in the oil and gas upstream industry, I have been part of several investigation teams, and around 50 to 60% of our incidents that involve injuries are mostly as a result of direct human factor infractions. So this is a great topic for me to learn and for all the rest of the audience to know about. So Dr. Egbe will explore the human factors influencing the various industries by providing examples of human error being responsible for significant accidents. And she will also evaluate the advantages and strategies for addressing them. On to you, Dr. Egbe.
Dr. Egbe, I will change the slides, or you can change slides. Oh, I can change it. Yes, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. It's really an honor to be part of this kind of organization. I mean, we've seen many organizations, but this kind is special because it reaches to far and beyond. And I'm really privileged to be part of this and to be given an opportunity to present today. So you all have been kindly and patiently listening. So I'm going to make this session as interactive as possible. And I would need a little bit of your engagement as well. After all, it's human factors. And so we need to keep up with the theme of the session. So let's go on to the next.
Yeah, you have gone through.
Okay. So I've put my video on for a few minutes just to make sure that everybody knows who's presenting. I'll turn it off now just for network purposes. I've been introduced with all the background, so we'll just move on. So before we dwell into human factors, I'd like to do an icebreaker session with you all. All of you have phones, or if you are using your phone for this call, you can use another device to log into menti.com. So you either can use your phone now, but we'll switch the screen. As soon as we switch the screen and Mr. Ashok shows you, I would like you to scan the QR code and there would be a question which you would have to answer. So Mr. Ashok, if you can switch it to mentimeter.com.
Yes, so let me count down, madam. So for the benefit of everybody. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to switch the screen, but you can either do the scanning of the QR code or menti.com. Remember this code, this number 69355732. Somebody can put in the chat box also. So I'm going to share the screen. I mean, go to that particular browser where we can see the live. I'm sure you are able to see the screen. I'm going to open the present.
Yeah, and you will see the QR code again. So those of you who have missed it,
okay,
you can now.
Very nice. People are already
brilliant.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah.
We are smart. Yeah.
Anybody who's missed scanning the QR code can get it here. It's the same one.
Yes.
How many people do we have on the call right now? If I may ask?
30 plus. 30, yes.
30 something. Okay. So a few more. I'll just wait for a few more. There you go. Lots of votes coming in.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have the factors we've got there is ergonomics, behavioral safety, human nature, employee engagement, human error, behaviors of people, and factors that influence people. So I can see that the cluster is quite heavily on factors that influence people, behaviors of people.
Yeah.
Ergonomics is quite low there.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, still there you go. So this is very interesting. So as you can see, just from the results here, so human factors is such a the term human factors is quite easily understood in terms of its meaning, but if you actually think about what it actually means, you can see such varied response. So my exercise today was to show you that for some people it may mean ergonomics, for some it may be just behavioral safety, the programs that we do in our organization quite often. For some it's just human nature, because very often we do come across incident investigations where people go, you know what, this is just a human error mistake, and this is part of being human. Some people say it's all about engagement, but so what I can say from this is that all these options that you see on the screen are correct. But the one option that captures all of it is the one in the middle. The factors that influence people is the actual correct answer.
And we got more votes for that, yeah.
And you guys you got the majority of votes for that. So not to say that the others are wrong, because all the other factors come under the discipline of human factors. So, okay. Thanks for validating. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good.
Good confirmation of understanding. So thanks for that. We go back to the presentation.
Sure, ma'am. Yes. Perfect. I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. We can go to the next one. So just like we noticed on the screen earlier in the Menti quiz, here's the definition of human factors. If you put it quite simply, it accompanies, it kind of encompasses every little thing that influences behavior at work. So the definition is, Mr. Ashok, if you can just click.
Yeah.
So simply put, human factors refers to organizational, task, and individual factors. I love this model of human factors. There are many out there, but I follow the simple TOI model, if you can say it, organizational, task, and individual factors, because it's very easy for me to kind of categorize all those factors that we find in instant investigations or proactive assessments into these three categories, because all of them then influence behavior at work that can affect health and safety. And this definition was by the health and safety executive in UK many decades ago. So, and I think this is quite a simple way to understand it. Okay, we can go to the next one, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're all health and safety professionals. So let's do this. Can anyone tell me what incident, sorry, not yet.
Mhm.
What incident happened in the next dot? So the next click, Mr. Ashok?
Yeah.
Just one.
Mhm.
A big oil and gas accident happened in this part of the world. Can anyone say what it is?
With Piper Alpha or what?
That's right. Piper Alpha in the north.
No, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
In 1988.
Mhm.
And the next one, just decades later,
I'm sure
happened.
everybody will know that this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite recent, well, fairly recent. So the similar sort of root causes were flagged up in this incident. So this
Put in the
was,
chat box. So if anybody knows this, they can add in the chat box. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, the condo, yes. So what we're seeing here is that, the first time, human factors was highlighted as a root cause was way back in 1977 in an aviation industry accident. Then we also saw a disastrous accident in Chernobyl in 1986 and in the nuclear industry. Then we saw several incidents, several accidents, and some of which are such major ones, which is like the Piper Alpha and the Gulf of Mexico. And not only in these industries, but there's one more in South America, which was a success story, actually. If you can bring it up on the screen, Mr. Ashok.
Mhm.
This, can anyone remember this? It happened in the same year as the Macondo. This was 33 miners who were trapped underneath, and all of them were pulled out and they survived. And they were pulled out in this capsule, if you remember. It was 60 days of being trapped, 60 plus days of being trapped in this mine that had collapsed. And when they did the investigation again, human factors came, surfaced as one of the root causes. So as you can see, it's not just one industry, it's across all industries that human factors has emerged as one of the, causal factors in accidents investigations. If you can just go to the next one, Mr. Ashok.
Yeah.
So, so I'll show you some pictures here. So I would like you to just give a moment, if you can say it in the chat box or just think about it. Do you categorize these as human failures? So an employee climbing up the pipe to turn a valve. Okay, we can bring it up.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Can we bring up the next picture? Okay, an employee walking in the hallway, well, in the path and coming across a corner and injuring himself. So what kind of, we're talking about the behavior there. What kind of behavior is that?
Unsafe act.
Unsafe act, unsafe behavior. Yes, correct. Okay, and the last one. Okay, So if you had this kind of button to operate, everybody knows is the emergency shutdown button. How would you shut a plant down? Would you push it or pull it? Push. Some people say push. Okay. Push to shut it down or push to operate? So yeah, push to shut it down. Yeah, it's people who are familiar with plants and using ESD. They are quite familiar on how to shut it down. But someone who's new, you can think of a green hat, person who's new to the area and to the operations might find it confusing. So you can see that design can actually hinder his decision making in an emergency situation. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So by showing those examples, I want to bring you to the human factors model that I mentioned earlier. So what people do is influenced by a range of factors. And you can see that there are three main categories. One is the task factor. And by task, I mean the factors that are part of completing the task. So such as its design, such as maintenance, how the task is managed, etc. The second category, a very important one at that, which does flag up a lot, is individuals. So individual factors, which are relevant to just the individual, such as competence, how motivated the individual is, if the individual is able to recognize hazards, and what's the fatigue levels, his health, his or her health. And then if you can see the big proportion of factors fall under the organizational factors, which is the factors that an organization has control over. For example, providing usable procedures, ensuring communication is adequate among units, making sure the manpower is adequate, organizing shift patterns that work well. So all the human factors you can see can be categorized, all the factors can be categorized into these. And if you actually notice, I think one of the comments here was, why are we only focusing on human factors? Actually, if you notice, all the causal factors can be somehow put under somehow mapped against these factors. So people generally think of human factors as human error, but it's not just human error. It's about the factors that influence human error, at that make human error happen if not managed properly. Okay, if we can just go to the next. So this is called human factors. It influences behavior, and then behavior goes on to influence performance. I'm going to show you a couple of photos here again, and I'd like you to tell me how likely is human failure in this particular situation. So you're facing an emergency situation. For example, there's a fire in the building. You see the sign. Which way would you try to slide the door? Left or right? Left or right? It's a sliding door. Yeah, it's a sliding door. You're running away from the building. Obviously, running out of the building, and literally in few seconds, you have to make yourself go out. Okay. So as you can see, some people have said left and some people have said right. Some people say it's confusing. So you can see the arrow at the top tells you to go right. Yes. But the instruction underneath says slide left to open the door. So what this sign suggests is the emergency door is on the right, but there's a way to open it. And in a time constrained situation, it's very difficult to make understand and make that decision. Okay, very related to this situation, I'll show you another picture. Okay, very simple. How would you open this door? Now you've found the door, a door. Would you push or pull? Okay, some people say push, okay. And most likely because the instruction on the door says push, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody says pull. Yes, Mr. Ashok?
Yes, somebody said pull. Vikram Raj. Yes.
Say pull as well, because you could argue because there's a handle, and the handle generally prompts you to pull.
Yes. Exactly.
So you could like that, and then there could be potential confusion. The last one. Okay, so you're running down the stairs, you've made it through the door, and you're running down the stairs. And so how many steps do you see in this picture? 1, 2, or 3? 2. Okay. 3. Yes.
3.
So again,
3.
Yeah. Yes.
somebody said 4 because they can see one at the top.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're running fast and you're trying to escape, you might think of that last tape as a step, and you might slip. And it has, I think, I'm sure it has happened to many of us where we are in a hurry and we have missed the last step. If you look closely, actually, that is just a tape that's put on the bottom to make it look like a step, maybe for aesthetic reasons, but it doesn't help. Such a kind of modification doesn't help when you're trying to escape under those constraints. So if there was someone dealing with number 1, the door, finding the door, opening or pushing or pulling, and then going down the stairs, how likely do you think the human failure could be? It's a very simple answer. High or low? Definitely high, right?
Obviously.
And that, yes. So the chances of escaping are getting slimmer by the minute. So if we go to the next one. So my point here is if we are focused is to reduce human errors, what we need to focus is not just looking at, whether human error has happened or not, but the next step, which is, if you click the next one, is to look at why the human error has happened. And generally in incident investigations, normally we say, it was just an individual mistake, but interestingly, 70% approximately are organization weaknesses. And those organization weaknesses point to, the next one, sorry.
Yeah.
Human factors. So while individual mistakes also can be managed by managing human factors, the organizational weaknesses are majorly controlled by managing these task, individual and organizational factors. And by doing so, we can, if we can click it again.
Yeah.
By doing so, we can then reduce the human error. So the difference is in asking why, not just to find out what human error happened, but also asking the why of the error. Okay.
May I ask a question, please, with permission?
Of course, yes.
Yes. My name is Ram Prasad.
Yeah. Hi, Ram.
Yeah. Now, when you say these things, can it also not be a vision, the eyesight of the people, where
Yes.
error of judgment could happen?
Yeah, the error of judgment, I will.
Maybe the vision. Could there not be error of judgment for various reasons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could, where do you think you would put that in? Task, individual, or organizational?
Task, individual.
So which factor do you think you would put that in? In those categories that are shown on the screen, where do you think you'll put the eyesight or poor vision under? Individual. So it could, as other people are saying, it could fall under health. So if you have poor vision, poor eyesight, then it could be that you're impaired in making that decision.
Exactly.
So it's an individual fact.
Yes.
I hope that clarifies.
God.
we'll move forward. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please
Thank you for
proceed.
that question.
Thank you.
Okay, if we can go to the next slide.
Sure.
Okay, so this actually brings to what you were saying, Mr. Ramprasad. Human failures are actually not random. There are patterns to them. We can actually see and categorize the human failures. So, and interestingly, there are loads of human failures. Now, I'll explain with each one with an example. At the top, it says the main difference in unsafe acts is intention. And when we talk about intention, most of our mistakes, most of our acts are the unsafe acts are unintended. For example, slips. Now you have a cup of coffee and you are doing something and you hit the cup of coffee. That's just a slip. It's an attention failure. You didn't notice it. You made a mistake, unintended. Lapse is, for example, you're driving the car. You wanted to turn right. You wanted to put the right indicator on, but you forgot. So that's a memory failure, which is a lapse. Now, the third one is still unintentional, is a mistake. For example, if like, for example, if you have a rule that you don't know, for example, you see a no entry sign and you don't know what it means, you could enter that road. And that's a rule-based mistake because you didn't know or you did not know what the rule was. Now, intentional is actual rule breaking, and they can be categorized into 4 more categories. Mr. Ashok, if you can put the next. Yeah. So this is where it gets very tricky. For example, people intend it, but they don't intend the consequence to happen. For example, I've always done it. This is how my colleagues do it. So this is how I'll kind of use the tool, wrong tool. That's a routine rule breaking. You know it's wrong, but you carry on doing it because it's part of your routine habit or routine activity. Situational is, for example, my boss told me to do so. My boss told me to use the, it's because of time pressure, use the wrong tool to get the job done. That's situational. Exceptional is, for example, an emergency situation. You did not know what to do because there was no sufficient training or sufficient, and you break the rule. But very often, if you look at all these failures, human failures, which one do we generally highlight in investigations? Can I have some responses? So the categories
Yes,
on the right.
once again, Ram Prasad.
Yeah.
Given the experience that you carry on the board, bring to the table, I would feel it's a lack of focus, lack of attention, and lack of focus again, repeat. When people try to multitask in today's world, they don't focus on what they're supposed to do. When you have a problem, I would suggest I do it, break it down into smaller issues, bit by bit, and tackle. But the current gen takes it across the board, do multitasking where you do multiple things without a focus, is what I carry, which I would submit.
Okay. Okay. So when you do incident investigations, yes, so somebody said violation. So one of the things that comes across a lot, the term that comes across a lot is violations, because people say if you know the rule and you've broken it, that means you have committed a violation, correct? But what we are trying to say is sometimes people do know the rule, sometimes they know the reason of following the rule, but they do not follow the rule or do not follow the procedure because of certain factors. And those are, there could be routine rule breaking, situational, or even exceptional. So that's the difference. So sometimes we have to walk away from the actual outcome, but actually take one step back and think of the intention and the factors that led to that behavior, if that makes sense.
Perfect.
And this model, I really use it to help me understand unsafe behaviors in the incident investigation scenarios. Okay, if we can go to the next one.
Very nicely.
Excuse me.
Yeah. We will have
Thank
a
you.
question and answer session afterwards, sir. So kindly hold on for the Q&A session. Let's continue with the presentation.
Yeah.
Go
Is there
ahead.
just a few more slides? It won't be too long.
Yeah.
I would like to keep a long time for discussion. So I would like to say, I mean, most of us are health and safety professionals here and have done incident investigations. And you would find that these three questions are the main ones that you ask in incident investigations. Am I right? What happened? So you gather all the data, why it went wrong. So you want to know all the causal factors and root causes, and how do we prevent it? So this is the basic summary. So, but from a human factors point of view, I think there are two more questions that need to be asked, and probably it fits under that second bullet. But I'd like to try to, make it a bit more clear. So, first question is, if you click on it, Mr. Ashok.
Yeah.
What human failure type occurred? So the table I showed you before. So we need to understand what is that human failure that occurred, which is that behavior that, and how can we categorize that into? And then the second question that follows is, if you click again, what caused that human failure? And this is where those human factors categories come in, all the task and individual and organization. So this gives us a bit of structure in understanding what are the behaviors that went wrong and why, and how then we can address it. Okay, if we can go to the next. So this is where it fits in your incident investigation paradigm. So for example, if the human failure happened because it's a design issue, for example, if we look at this, so in the past, the control rooms used to be complicated like this. Another one. And now we have better design control rooms, hopefully, hopefully in all industries. But because we have noticed that people get confused, the interface between human and machine needs to be improved so that they can make decisions quicker, read the signals quicker and better. Even the dials used to be somewhat confusing then. All of them look the same. Now we have nice interface, touch screen to make it easier for people to respond. So this is just an example to give you a flavor of how human factors can help. Human factors can also be a part of it, which is procedure usability, which is part of the organizational factors. So if an organization gives you the procedure on the left, which is A, and procedure on the right, which is B, which one would you pick up to do the same task? A or B? B.
Obviously,
somebody said A. Obviously B, yes. So why? Because it's easy to read, easy to understand the steps. It highlights the ones that are really important. And in a safety case, in a safety scenario, it will be really important to highlight this hazards that can happen. So when we know that a certain procedure, a certain technique makes it easier for individuals to perform well, that helps us understand that we can actually make some changes to our systems, our processes, in order to set up people for success. So this is yet another example. Okay, if we go to the next one. So human factors, they are checklists to help us understand, to go through each one. If you can go back, Mr. Ashok, just that one checklist there. Yeah. So in my discipline, I offer certain checklists to teams to do a quick check on, and it's probably something you're doing anyway. It may seem common sense as well, but it helps sometimes to systematically go through a set of questions to assess your procedures, your training, and all the factors that I mentioned before. Okay, if we go to the next one. I love this quote that I saw when I was doing my research. We must accept human error as inevitable and design around that fact. Because human error, we are humans, and we will always, the special trait is that we'll always make mistakes. That makes us who we are. But then our capacity is in designing around that fact. So we have to make the systems and the equipment and the procedures all around us to help us succeed. This gentleman was working in the Obama administration in health, and he came up with this kind of conclusion. Okay, we can go to the next one. Okay, so just as a bit of a conclusion, human factors can be applied in both ways. It's not just only about incident investigation that I've kind of explained a little bit more on. It's not just reactive. We can even be proactive. So as you know, all those lists that you can see is what's being done in by our safety departments anyway, like audits, hazard identification plans, risk assessments. All this is where human factors can be injected to have a bit of a proactive element in catching those traps where errors are more likely. Okay, so I think if we do more of the proactive, we'll be reducing the reactive. Okay, if we go to the next one. Okay, there's a bit of misalignment here, but I would have asked you how many bars you see. Okay, let's see how many bars people see.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4, some people see 4, 3. It depends on which angle you're looking at.
Exactly.
Yeah, 3, 4. So from left, it's 4. Somebody is very specific here. I love that.
Yes.
Okay.
Smart
so yes, very smart. So what I'm trying to show here is that people can see the same thing in a different light. You know, so perception can change with the way you look at things. If we can bring the next quote there. So we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And that's very important for each of us to realize when we work as teams, when we work in organizations, that everything is influenced by our perception of our background, of our knowledge, of our, experience. So it's very important to realize that and help individuals come to a certain decision. And that's why the organizational factors are really important, because if you leave individuals to make to do whatever, make their own analysis, it may be confusing. Somebody may say 4, somebody may say 3, and it may not be the most favorable outcome if you put it in work settings. Okay, so the next one. So I'll end with a very advanced sector, which has really advanced in human factors consideration, which is aviation. My question to you is, would you feel comfortable flying if the pilot had not completed all his checks?
No way.
Obviously, no, right? You'll be sitting with your family, you're sitting with your friends, you are trying to get to a family member. No one would want to sit in a plane with about 200 so passengers when the pilot has not completed his checks. So why would we accept that at work? Maybe we perceive the risk to be lower likelihood or low consequence, but the concept is the same. If you click on it, before every single flight, you have the pilot going through a certain checklist. It doesn't matter how many times he has flown the plane. It could be, in hundreds and thousands. But he and she has to go through the checklist. And you always have a co-pilot with the pilot. Can someone say why?
Buddy system.
Buddy system, counter check. Yeah, someone said counter. So because human error is never going to be 0. The person sitting in the pilot seat could possibly make an error. And you don't want to risk 200 plus passengers because of that. So you have a co-pilot always sitting with the pilot, just in case there is not just an error, but it's always, like somebody said, counter check, to minimize the scope of having human error. So it's the same thing we need to apply at work. If there is a critical operation or a safety critical element being managed, then we have to make sure that there is a counter check, that there is that co-pilot making sure that there's no error that can be possible, and a checklist to be used, for example. Okay, and I think we're coming up to everybody knows the Swiss cheese model. I just wanted to quickly show you how human factors fits in here. If you can just click away, Mr. Ashok. Sorry because of the misalignment.
Yeah.
We all know hazards lead to accidents. The Swiss cheese bars are safety management system. But how I see human factors, if you click again, human factors is we are the one. If you manage human factors well, we're going to plug the holes. If you don't, then somehow the holes will line up. And that's how human factors sits within the Swiss cheese model, the way I see it. So it strengthens the barriers to prevent hazards from leading to an accident. If you can go to the next one. So I'll end my presentation with this quote. And it's a quintessential quote from James Reason, who came up with the error model. We cannot change the human condition, but we can change the conditions under which people work.
Nicely said.
And that's the whole essence of human factors. So I'll leave you with that thought, and happy to take any questions.
Yes, we have a Q&A moderator, our Mr. Ugandhar Fani Varma. He is our subject matter expert for the training as well as consultancy interventions. And he's joining from Andhra Pradesh, India today. And he has got a lot of experience in the HSE field, and he holds his master's in industrial safety engineering, bachelor's in electrical and electronics engineering, and he also holds ASP from BCSP USA with an EBOSH and ISO certification. Without losing much time, I welcome Mr. Ugandhar to take over the Q&A session. Mr. Ugandhar.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Shama.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you. So first thing is we will take question and answers from the participants. So first, Mr. Pardasarthi has raised his hand. So I want Mr. Pardasarthi to unmute himself and ask your question, please.
Good evening, Shamaji. It's excellent session. So my first question is that one of the first slides you mentioned, the people factor is 80% of root cause. And as you continue the slides, you concluded with the 70% organization contribution for root causes. Is there any deliberate way you present that way? That is one question. Second one is it's not a question. So I'm fortunate to implement in my organization in India, the James Reason model. We call it as fair and just culture model for incident investigations as well as risk assessments. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay. So going back to the first question, thank you for that. I think what I mentioned about we can actually show the slide again. Mr. Ashok, can we?
Yeah, okay. Why not? Yes.
Yeah. Then it's better for the audience to actually see what we're talking about. If we just go to the top, yeah, is the bar that one after the step? The next one, yeah. If we can put this one, yes. So, so by suggesting this, what I was mentioning is that if you look at any incidents or anything that unfavorably has happened, you'll see that 80% of it is, we suggest that it's human error. So somebody somewhere made an error, made a mistake. But if you look closely into what those mistakes are, you'll find that only 30% are actually individually focused mistakes. So somebody actually lost attention or made a slip or made a knowledge-based mistake. Most of the 70% of the factors are actually organizational failures. And by organizational failures, what I suggest I'm suggesting is that it could be that the procedure wasn't right, whether the training provided wasn't right, or that there was no management commitment in that particular situation. So all that comes under human factors. So everything is related to people. We can call all of it as people factors. But it's very important to understand that these people factors can be then categorized into specifically into related to task, specifically on individual, and then the factors that those are mostly managed by the organization as a whole. I hope that kind of clarifies your question.
Yes, I have no question in this particular slide. Can you go for next slide number 3 or 2?
Okay, funny, with due respects,
Yes.
I'm on the mobile. I don't have the option of raising my hand or posting question in the chat.
Yeah,
Now,
I have a
with
question.
with information, with everybody's permission, I would like to post a question, a request a question. Now,
Okay.
we are talking about the human factors. One of the questions that I already posted was, today with the advent of IoT, GChat, we have issues where the human factor is gone. I specifically referred to a movie which I saw, Sully, where it was a movie on the plane landing in the Hudson. So there were questions asked there when they said, you could have landed at the nearest airport. The one question that the pilot asked, how many times did that person make the attempt to land into the airport? The answer was 17 times. Now, when we have such a situation, where is the human factor and where is the emotion involved in that? Are we not getting into automation, GChat, IoT, and things like that? Where is the human factor gone? Is the question that I would like to ask. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that movie, first of all. I think I recommend everyone to watch that movie. It's about the pilot and how decision making is done in a sort of an emergency situation. And so my comment on that would be that even though we're automating all the as much as possible, you can never take out the human out of the equation, because there are two ways a human is always involved. One is to monitor the automated system, because there has to be some sort of monitoring aspect, and also if it fails, then the human has to intervene. So in these two cases, the human will always have to intervene. So if you go back to the Sully example, the pilot had all the software to make a decision, make calculations on where is the best, where's the nearest airport and where he should have landed. But he used his own competence and his own decision making, given the parameters that he understood from his experience, to decide that he wouldn't make it to the airport, which the machine told him that he would. And he decided that he would, the best bet is to land it on the river, and he would take the risk and land it there, because the likelihood of making it to the airport was zero. And when people questioned him in the court, he said that the machine didn't take into account the impaired decision making that can happen in a situation like that. So that's why no matter how much we automate things, human element will always be there in some shape or form.
How do you connect in the current situation, madam, within the IoT, the GChat and stuff like that, and the human factor that we have been talking about this session? Where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the difference?
I'm not very clear on, I mean, what do you mean in terms of what influence we have?
The human factor, human errors, which we spoke,
Ram Prasad
and
ji
this
will
kind of the current technology that we talk about.
Ram Prasad ji will park this question and take after the we go because of the time constraints.
Sir,
we'll park this question and
okay,
take
fine.
Yeah. Funny, Mr. Funny, go ahead
Sir.
with that idea. Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so
Sir,
we have
I have a question.
one
Sir.
more raised hand.
Yeah.
One more raised hand from Vikram. Vikramji, is it Vikramji speaking?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead, Vikramji.
Okay. Ma'am, very good evening. I'm from India, and it was a like excellent presentation. Very brainstorming also. Ma'am, I would just like to ask one thing. How you have you come across, or what you feel or say about organizational cultural norms, when it how they deal when it comes to real life incidents or accidents, in which people lose their life, and the officers who have to face n number of investigations, or n number of they have to answer as many people, the management also.
Yeah, I mean, cultural norms, I'm glad you pointed that out. Cultural norms has a heavy bearing on the way people tend to behave, because you pick up cues from the environment. If you think of a new person who joins the team, the first thing he or she would do is to assess what the culture is like, what to do, what not to do. No matter what the procedure says or what the science says, they will generally tend to do what people are doing. If everybody's sitting, they will sit. If everybody's standing, they will stand. It's a very simple it's a simple rule about human nature. So there are many incidents where this becomes a huge influential factor, and that's why research as well as practical experience has shown that management commitment and setting those expectations and foundation principles can actually shape these cultural norms. So it all has to come from the people at the top. That's the only way I think these cultural
Yes,
norms can
yes,
be
ma'am,
managed.
exactly. Because yes, ma'am, I'll just take 2 minutes more, because ma'am, in one of our one of my I know one incident in which a third person who has to look after the movement of vehicles, those people didn't check, and then a particular vehicle gets caught, gets a cabin fire. But in all
Mhm.
these situations and conditions, the officer who is the safety officer, he was present or not present at duty, he is charged and he is charge sheeted. So in India, actually, it's a legal post as well. So
Mhm.
in these conditions, how the culture, the company's culture and top management mindset reacts, that's very important.
Yeah, it's a very good example you've mentioned. And I think we make conclusions far too soon in terms of finding someone to blame without finding out why that person missed doing those checks properly, for example. And the factors that
But
leading
ma'am,
up
do you
to.
feel? Yeah, but ma'am,
Vikramji, we
but
we
ma'am, do you
will
feel? Yeah, sure. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Vikramji, we will go to the next question because of the time. Okay.
A quick
Actually,
He's
question,
getting
if the
touched.
time permits.
you can put your questions in the chat box so that we can take the answers. We can forward it to you. That's not a problem.
I placed
Yeah.
the question in the chat box. However, a quick question from the madam. Very beautiful presentation. Now, corporate social responsibility is a human factor or not? One thing I wanted to know. Second thing is human machine interface, human factors, and you are talking about the human machine interface, human factors, or something else.
Again, thank you for that question, first of all. I think, like I said, the human machine interface is the equipment you're using. So if you're designing an equipment to help humans perform their tasks better, that is human factors. And it's a task factor because you're improving the performance of the task by giving them a better design. So it does come under that. The first question, your question was about corporate social responsibility. Now, my question to you is, what is the intent of corporate social responsibility? Is it not to create
No.
citizenship among people and encourage?
His question was that
No,
corporate social irresponsibility, not responsibility, irresponsibility.
yes,
Irresponsibility. Okay.
Ashok garu. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So it's the same. I mean, if you do not have a social responsibility towards the social environment you're working in, or towards the environment, for example, then it again sets the expectations about the precedence of the organization and the goals of the organizations, and that then influences the cultural norms of the people working for the organization. So if you're expecting people to be showing citizenship, for example, go over and beyond their work duties, if the organization has irresponsibility, then it would be impractical to expect employees working for that organization to show responsibility. So it again
Madam, I am
influences.
talking about corporate social responsibility in terms of making serious decisions. For example, Bhopal is live example, because as per
Yeah.
methyl isocyanate is an intermediate which is not supposed to be stored, and it is not being stored in US any plants. But whereas in India it is been done because our incompetency at the time or whatever may be the reason. But the decision is made by the corporate as a social responsibility, because society they are putting the society at risk. In such cases, it is a human factor, or how we will take it?
It is. It is. First of all, you can put it to many different factors.
Exactly.
The procedure, the risk assessment, of including that, the hazard recognition, all that comes under making that decision of storing that harmful substance.
So we will go forward to the next question from Advi Srikant ji. He has raised his hand. Srikant ji, please ask your question.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Shamaji. So wonderful presentation. In fact, I would
Thank
like to
you.
comment and then I'll ask a question. In fact, we did those points considered in the investigation of various incidents. And if the investigation committee is rightly nominated by competent guys, definitely those points are very much to be considered. One such aspect that we did in our organization is alarm management. So alarm management is absolutely a human factor example. Other point is that, I believe you are working in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah.
So one example that I would like to say that those Asian vehicles, Asian automobiles and the Western automobiles. If you see a classic difference, those Asian vehicles give amber light when doing the left and right turn, but in the Western vehicles, they do a red one. So initially when I came to Gulf, it was tough for me to understand what it is. So maybe the universal automobile industry should have to consider this point. So my question here is that, my question here is that considering the various projects that we do in the oil and gas in a very complex stage, at what stage we should consider these human factors into the consideration, and how to address those human factors in what level? Thank you.
Yeah, that's an excellent example. I would like to actually, if you have any pictures or anything, that would be excellent to actually showcase as well. I mean, it's a very difficult. I mean, to get the buy-in from management in order to address certain design changes, for example, something that goes on a large scale is always going to be tough, but not impossible, because if you look at the number of errors that people can make while because of this factor, because of the confusion it can create, and because of the wrong interface that they can experience, then it's a case to make a change. So it has to be, I mean, after all, we are in a business, so there has to be a strong case of the certain factor you're mentioning, making it likelihood for more errors. So if the errors are increasing, then there is a case for managing that. I hope that's clear.
So
thank you very
next
much.
question, Shankarji has raised his hand. Shankarji, you can put your query ahead.
Thank you so much. Dr. Shama, nice presentation. Good insights on human factors. And I guess, like you said correctly, a lot of us jump to conclusions, especially most investigations have the final corrective actions as training, which doesn't really make sense, because unless you go down to the human factors and drill down, and just to kind of complete the loop on what you were presenting so nicely, if there's a violation, which is a routine or even situational, you need to reinforce the leadership. But if it's a that is rule based or knowledge based, you need to manage change better, maybe re-educate the workforce. And if it's a slip or memory because of a skill based error, you might need to redesign, reorganize the workplace, maybe do a risk assessment. A couple of what you presented in terms of pictures is, and what you just mentioned about the lights for signals is all very relevant there. So unless you drill down to the human factors and find out, is it a learning error? Is it an omission error? Is it an application? Person makes a mistake at a point in time, or an inconsistency in the way that knowledge skill is applied, or the decision, as I said, I think that's very relevant. Like you said correctly, the most effective preventive measure could be error proofing to eliminate the possibility of making an error. And you got to design the work in a way that human error is, can't say impossible, but it's limited. Just wanted to add my 2 bit to that.
No, that's thank you so much for that. You've explained it better than me, actually, in terms of highlighting what kind of human failure. It's very important to know what kind of human failure to then address how we can prevent it. So if we don't know what is the type that has happened and why, then we will not be able to address it. So thank you for articulating that so well.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
This is Partha.
Partha Sarji, please go ahead. I'm
Yes.
reading your question, so please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so instead of I'm following the same question what you asked.
Yeah,
so my experience, I will tell you. This fair just culture model, we implemented risk assessments as well as incident investigations. When it's come to risk assessments, we implemented for the only critical risks. So once controls established, each control will be verified how it can fail you. So in that case, how the employee or particular individual while they want to perform the control, what are the obstructions, whatever it is we will find. So those observations, the requirements, any actions required, that we keep it as a verification by the respective supervisor, so that they will ensure the control never fails by establishing the verifications for each control. Not for every task we do, only for high risk tasks where the potential to fatalities kind of things. That's why we do. When it's come to the investigations, every incidents, including near miss, we do perform fair and just culture model. Why the particular individual did the way it should, it would be. It could be the supervisor influence, so that in most cases we have the consequence management. If we feel the supervisor's influence his behavior the way unsafe as working, so he needs to go for the counseling, his performance management effects, where the particular individual who did errors or mistakes, so he'll get further trainings. Whereas unless we can't establish the violation, even at times violations we do, example isolation, when all employees are not practicing the isolation, you don't see that is even if it is rule break, you don't see its violation. It's go back to the supervisor or manager failed to implement the procedure. That way we look. Power to you.
Yeah, I mean, you rightly pointed out it could be cultural norms. So nobody is doing the isolations correctly. So the gentleman who really wants to follow the procedure might not be actually inclined to do it in any way because nobody does it. So that's where the cultural norms really becomes important. The other one is supervision, and leadership is very critical, because if the precedence is not, or expectations are not set by your boss in terms of following the certain rules or procedures, then you would not find it practical or important to follow it. But when everything is fine, nobody complains about it. But if something goes wrong, somebody's hurt or some unproductive incident has happened, that's when people then start again looking at the individual who did not follow the procedure. Whereas again, taking a step back and seeing why the individual, as you say, has not performed that task, it could be because a certain supervisor has never encouraged that sort of behavior, or actually discouraged following the rules. So that's where the corrective action should be, and not just on that individual making that unsafe, getting involved in that unsafe act.
So one more question from me. Now the thing is, we are all trained in doing certain procedures. So we have SOPs or method statements, and we have the step-by-step job procedures. So every person is, let's suppose that they are well versed with the operating procedures, with the control panel, HMI, and everything. The main thing is when a certain unprecedented event happens suddenly, that's when we should be acting very quickly. We should respond to the situation very accurately and quickly. For example, we have very good example of air race, right? So how we should be prepared, I mean, in related to human factor. So how we should be trained to deal with such kind of scenarios.
I mean, I think aviation industry has cracked this to the nth degree. The simulation training is exactly to prepare them for uneventful, undesired situations. So they practice and practice and practice until it just becomes part of their DNA to know how to react in such emergency situations.
Can we bring this to industrial grade, industrial scale?
So in industrial scale is about having emergency drills or creating situations that have been found to occur often, and getting involved, getting critical people involved, people who are critically involved in certain decision making to practice that. Even in the oil and gas industry, you have emergency response management plan and teams who practice certain scenarios that could possibly happen on a quarterly basis, and that's the only way to prepare people on how to deal with exceptional situations.
Okay, thank you very much. We had a very good session on human factors, and I'll be, over to you, Jitu sir.
Thank you very much. I really want to appreciate Fani ji conducting this question answer session, which even was a bigger presentation by itself. That shows how much the pot was stirred by Dr. Shama. I wish I was much younger, and I wish also that Dr. Shama was there when I was there working for Saudi Aramco, when I was heavily involved in writing scripts for many safety films with the help of media production of Saudi Aramco. That would have made a totally different approach from the presentation that what we all learned today from Dr. Shama. So with that, I would like to introduce our very dear friend and a profound professional in the field, Mr. Bala Siva Srikant Adivi, to make a vote of thanks, please.
Before the vote of thanks, we have some slides to present. Bala, just a few minutes more.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So as we were telling that every month we have a knowledge transfer sessions, the upcoming knowledge transfer session is very, very important thing like today. This is going to be by Kathy Seabrook from CEO of the Global Solution in New Jersey, USA. And the topic is very interesting again, the true north, where exactly we are going ahead, the essential role of the safety and health in the ESG and sustainability. And many people have requested in our WhatsApp group about this program. So even during our earlier session. So mark your dates. I'm going to post this link in the chat box shortly. You can register. It is scheduled on 17th May 2023, on Wednesday, almost a month after. Okay. And this session will explore the principles of the so many things with respect to the ESG. I'm not going to talk more about that, but very important session is ahead. And Kathy Seabrook is a past president of ASSP, and she is instrumental in National Safety Council or INSPO or US National Academics of Science Club. So many committees she has been heading. That's one thing. And yes, Mr. Jitu was telling about the giving back to the community, and I think we have almost 30 plus subject matter experts here. This is the time for us to give back to create a safer tomorrow. and your support to the both foundations in fulfilling its objectives is highly appreciated. These are the few of the donors or contributors to our foundation who are also attending our session today. And it can be any means, as I was telling, that it's not only the finance, it can be the knowledge transfer, it can be the advocacy, so many things. These are some of the donors for the J&A Global. And this is our governance body I was telling. And now we would like to come to the vote of thanks by Mr. Bala. Go ahead, Mr. Bala.
Thank you, Jitu Saab. Thank you, Ashok ji. In fact, before proposing a formal vote of thanks to the speaker, the guest of the honor today, I express my sincere thanks to the speaker, Dr. Shama ji, for making the presentation so smooth, a very seamless presentation that I have come us in the recent times, that I could complete my four kilometers walk in the gym while listening to the presentation, as well as participating in the your quiz as well. Thank you very much. So we are extremely grateful to you, to all. We are extremely grateful to all our philanthropists for this generous donation to both foundations, as mentioned by Jitu Saab. Dr. Sharma ji, we cannot thank you enough for delivering such outstanding and wonderful presentation covering the different aspects of human factors. That includes the various types of mistakes and lapses, which is governed by the HSE UK, and their importance to enhance productivity and safety. Thank you from the bottom of all our hearts. Our sincerest appreciation to our honored guests for their presence and esteemed support to the mission of the J&A Foundation. The ongoing support of Garlapati, Fani Vermaji, and myself to the foundation mission is of immense value to those charitable HSE Foundation. Thank you very much to all wonderful professionals. We are indebted to all the delegates for attending this knowledge transfer session, and you made the event a grand success. Your active support is extremely important. The way you handle the question and answers, the replies is fabulous. Friends, we invite you all to take this time to visit the foundation website and complete the form showing you are willing to support the foundation for this noble cause as explained, noble cause and mission as explained by Jitu Saab and Ashok ji, towards a safer workplace and community. No contribution are ever too small. Even a small step is significant in this kind of a noble cause. Once again, thank you for sparing your valuable time for making the event a great success. Together, we would prevail and make a difference positively in our nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Balaji. Last word from Ashok ji, and then I would request everybody to make sure that they have a smiling face for a picture which will be taken by Ashok ji also. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure everybody is wondering, you keep telling us, give back. How to give back? I'm going to show you something different now. Now you can take a picture of this particular slide. This is for the J&A Bharat HSE Foundation, where you can do online transfer or something like that. You just kindly capture the screenshot if you are on the mobiles or something like that. This is related to the Bharat Foundation, and this is related to the Global Foundation who are outside India. They can contribute. You can kindly take a picture of this. And another important thing as a concluding remark is our knowledge transfer round the clock. I mean, round the clock. A lot of questions are posted in India evening time, and by the time you wake up, you see the answers. So I would like to congratulate few of the subject matter experts who are really supporting the community, Mr. Narasimhan from Chennai, and Mr. Namir from UK, Mr. Prakash Tata from Kuwait, and there are so many people who are really active, and Mr. Fani from India again. So they are active. Please be part of this particular group. And this is the truly knowledge transfer round the clock. So the link is given in the chat box as well. Please do join. And as Mr. Bala and everybody said, together everyone achieves more. With that, we would like to have conclude our program with the stopping the recording. Then we will have the